Whatever kind of night you're having, start it off right with Drizzly, the go-to app for drink delivery. Whether you're mixing up a bullet bourbon old-fashioned for a cozy night in, or Kettle One Bloody Mary bar for a birthday brunch, you can get the perfect beer, wine, and spirits for any occasion delivered with Drizzly. So,
what's it gonna be?
Download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com to choose your drinks today. Must be 21 plus, not available in all locations.
Littleton Coin Company is ringing in the holiday season with daily deals. Visit littletoncoin.com for at least 15% off select products now through November 28th. Save on your favorite coins, such as Morgan Silver Dollars, Kennedy Half Dollars, commemorative quarters, and much more. But hurry, each day offers a new deal you don't want to miss. Visit us now at littletoncoin.com. That's littletoncoin.com. Littleton Coin Company, serving collectors since 1945.
Welcome to Spotcast, Stardate 96858, Mark 01. My name is Timothy and I'm in Toronto, Ontario, and I'm joined once again by my number one. trying to think of a number one, whatever.
Chief Science Officer?
Yeah, Chief Science Officer Jonathan Kuline over there in Mississauga, on the USS Mississauga.
That's right. Always a pleasure to be on board.
Yes, I should have said I'm on the USS Toronto, shouldn't I have?
Yeah.
We could do that again, I guess.
Yeah, you want to try it again?
Sure. All right. Welcome to Spotcast, Stardate 96858, Mark 01. My name is Timothy and I am on the USS Toronto, and I'm joined once again by, Chief Science Officer?
Chief Science Officer.
Jonathan Kuline on the USS Mississauga.
Hello.
All righty then. So yeah, we have no Jaime. He's off gallivanting in the UK.
Yeah, he's
doing
a world traveler
on Brexit.
Yeah. What's he going to steal for us this time?
What did he steal last time?
Well, I'm still waiting. I assume there's a package coming from his trip to Japan. I haven't gotten it yet.
Well, that's true. I haven't got mine either, but I actually think I am getting something from Japan.
What?
I don't know. There's been no exchange of gold pressed platinum or anything like that, so don't know. Good. Anywho, all right, well, let's dig in. Let's do some fact check. So, Jonathan, you got some fact check?
I do have some fact check. So, we'll start at 8:45 into our last episode. We talked about the ship that escaped Asgard at the end of Thor Ragnarok and that was attacked by Thanos at the beginning of Avengers Infinity War. According to sources online, it's called the Statesman. No idea. I don't think that was ever mentioned, but it's the Statesman.
So, yeah. So when does he lose his eyeball? At the beginning of that movie, right? Sometime in the movie?
He loses it in the fight with... did he lose it in the fight with Hela?
Maybe. That's his sister, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Anyway.
All right. So 2154. We were talking about the Dora the Explorer trailer for the movie version. You had mentioned that you had a note that you thought that I had said that the Tomb Raider reminded me of Angelina Jolie's Tomb Raider movies. You said
bad set of movies, bad movies.
You said it reminded you more of Alicia Vikander's,
which is the reboot. Yes,
which is the reboot. And after you mentioned, I was listening to last podcast, and you said it reminded you of Easy A a little bit. To me, as I looked at it one more time, it reminded me of Mean Girls. It had that sort of like girl who grew up in the jungle, doesn't know how to behave in high school kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, she's sort of the Lindsay Lohan character there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I haven't seen that movie, so I have no frame of reference. I've only seen Easy A as a sort of thing.
Yep. I like both those movies are great.
Actually, that one doesn't. I was just thinking I was going to say that was what has Heath Ledger, but no, that was the one, the retelling of the Shakespeare one with.
Oh, it's Taming of the Shrew. Yeah, they did 10 Things I Hate About You.
Yeah,
which was Taming of the Shrew.
Right.
2330, last episode. Spy Kids, we talked about. Spy Kids was directed by Robert Rodriguez, and Dora and the Lost City of Gold is directed by James Bobin, who is also the director of the reboot of the Muppets that starred Jason Segel a few years ago, and also the second version, Muppets Most Wanted. So
I still haven't seen that one either. Too, now you mention it.
Muppets or Muppets Most Wanted?
Most Wanted? Is that on the Netflix? Or maybe the Muppets. I haven't seen the Muppets reboot either, right?
I couldn't tell you if you had. I saw them both with my children in the movie theaters. The Muppets was great. It's a really lovely sort of homage to the show, and there's sort of a real good sort of vibe to it. The second one, it felt a little forced. It's got some good moments, but it's a little less than.
All right. Mm-hmm.
2454. We talked about Machete, which is also directed by Robert Rodriguez, who also wrote it, and we were talking about Danny Trejo, who was in Desperado, but he was not in El Mariachi, which was Robert Rodriguez's sort of breakout indie film.
Yeah.
2633.
Well, hang on a second, but he plays Tortuga in Breaking Bad, right?
Yes.
Danny Trejo. So, and is that same? We need a Spanish-speaking person here on the show. I wish we had knew one. But isn't that what? Because he ends up on a tortoise in the end of in his life on Breaking Bad, right?
He does. There's a whole sort of plot. I don't know. Is it too late for spoilers on Breaking Bad? Yeah. There's kind of that's the sort of irony is that he ends up as the severed head on top of the tortoise walking through the desert. Yeah. 2633. I looked at this and we talked about it, and you seem to recall that there was a Craft TV show.
I looked myself and I couldn't figure out why do I think the Craft is a TV show?
I think there has been. There was Charmed that was sort of the same.
Charmed. It's probably Charmed.
Yeah, which was a very similar idea of the sort of young witches. They're young and they're hip, but they're witches, and they had their coven and stuff like that. So that was immediately where my mind went after we stopped talking last week about the Craft. But yeah, there was no Craft TV show, no TV version of The Craft, I should say. And we talked about the Craft film being remade by Blumhouse last episode. But yeah, there's been a whole bunch of different versions over the years of sort of the, young witches and magic and stuff like that sort of become en vogue. But alas, not the actual Craft, by brand name. 3950, we talked about, I had mentioned Star Wars Celebration. So I was saying maybe we get some insight into that poster and maybe some insight into maybe a trailer timeline or a name for episode 9. I had mistakenly thought that it was actually last weekend, but it's actually April 11th to the 15th in Chicago. So it's actually still pending. There are a lot of rumors on the interwebs about, that we'll finally get a title, a proper title for episode 9. Maybe we'll see our first trailer, and there'll be some unveilings there. So that, still another week and a half for that one, but it'll be exciting to see what finally comes out of that. It does seem very sort of quiet from Star Wars land right now. So
yeah, and that's the sort of conferencey thing where they broadcast live, right?
Yeah, they do a big, it's a big deal. I've obviously never been, but they bring out a lot of top line talent. They bring out not just the actors who have played the famous roles, but they bring out the people who do special effects. They bring out the people who write. They bring out like all these different people, and they have all these panels and costumes. And yeah, it's a big it's a very big phenomenon. The celebration event.
I didn't realize it was so close to Toronto as well.
Yeah, you want to get in the car? We'll head on down to Chicago.
Maybe.
And the last thing we have for our fact check. So I had mentioned as 12535, we were talking about Detective Comics hitting issue 1000. And I knew that there was a bunch of variants. So there are 10 standard variants. There are sort of 10 standard covers that you can go into any comic store and buy. And then from there are variations. I counted based on an article I found online, and there are at least 85 variations on the cover.
Wow.
Now, some of those it'll be a piece of art that's drawn by somebody, and then they'll put out a variation that is without a title on it. So it just shows the art. And then there'll be a variation that shows what the black and white ink drawing looked like. And then there'll be a variation that'll be, foil laminated, version of it or whatever. So there's all these different versions of it. And I went through and did a count, and the number I got was 85, but that may have been an incomplete list. So if you're looking to complete your full run of all the different variations you can purchase for Detective Comics 1000, Landmark 1000th issue, you'll be looking at, so they're $10 a pop.
I was going to ask how much they are, yeah.
Yeah, $10 a pop US. So there's obviously an exchange for Canadian dollars. But yeah, $10 US a pop, 85 different covers. So you're going to drop down almost $1,000. And that's, again, some of the variants are obviously very rare because, that's how they get you on the variants. So it's probably more likely that you'll be spending a couple $1,000 if you wanted to have the whole collection.
So I was Googling last week and apparently, or looking to see where it's available online, and on Amazon they have the hardcover coming out in June. Is that a different kind of beast or what?
Yeah, I saw that too. I know they did that for Action Comics 1000 came out last year. And what they did was actually a book that was a collection of all the covers and sort of talked about the history and stuff like that. So it wasn't necessarily like the stories as much as it was a commemoration.
Right. Oh, okay.
So I don't know if that's what Detective has as well, but I think that's probably a safe bet.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, it's all Jonathan show. So why don't you hit us with some headlines?
Yes. So let's start at the top here. So as we discussed in last episode, we had some speculation online when tickets were going to go on sale for Avengers Endgame. They did go on sale exactly when we had prognosticated that April 2nd. They went up for sale at midnight. The backlash here was pretty nasty because they went on sale at midnight with no fanfare. They just went up for sale. Cineplex here in Canada put out on their social channels, I think it was sometime around 8 o'clock in the morning, they started saying, hey, by the way, you can get your tickets now, 8 hours after they had already gone on sale.
Yeah, they were pretty much gone by then, yeah.
Yeah, and then promptly their website crashed and was down for several hours during the purchase period. Meanwhile, in the United States, AMC's ticket sales went down. They got slammed. They had huge issues as well. So there was huge problems with people buying tickets. It was as you could expect, it was gangbusters. The prediction, we talked last week about, they're talking about, $200 to $300 million in the first weekend alone, which is staggering. So apparently some people were so frustrated with their inability to be able to purchase tickets for opening night that there has suddenly become this secondary market for movie tickets. So people are going on to sites like Kijiji or eBay or Craigslist, and they are posting that you can get yourself a fine pair of tickets to go see Avengers Endgame on the opening show at 6 o'clock on opening night, but instead of costing you a couple of bucks or whatever, $15-$20 for a movie ticket, they're looking for $150 a pop.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty crazy that I can't even fathom. Obviously, I bought secondary market tickets for a sporting event or a rock concert or something like that. I never thought I would see the day where a movie would be so in demand that people want to see it so much on the opening day. Again, this is something that is going to be playing every day for probably several months in the movie theaters across hundreds of movie theaters, thousands of movie theaters across North America for I don't even know how many screenings that's going to be, and people are so desperate to see it on the opening night they're willing to shell out a couple $100.
Crazy. Yeah.
So good luck to those people who really desperately needed to see it. I managed to score a couple of tickets for number one fan and I to go see it on the Friday evening.
What? Oh, yes, right.
Friday evening. As our beloved host of the show here will be somewhere sunning himself on the beach and won't be there for the show, but that's all right.
Yeah, I might have to go see it in Hawaii or something like that. Yeah, so we actually did end up buying 3 tickets for the Saturday, but turns out that I didn't realize at the time when I bought the tickets that I'm going to be in Hawaii. Yeah. And then you're busy that night, so fortunately a friend of mine, hello Darren, is going to take 2 of the tickets anyway off of our hands, or my hands. Yep. So yeah, it was a comedy of errors this weekend. But yeah, many of my friends were lamenting the fact that they couldn't get tickets. In fact, we were taping More Than Just Code yesterday, and a new co-host, Drew Freeman, was saying he was having a hard time getting tickets too. So yeah, they were very difficult, basically unattainium in the United States as well. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Again, surprising. It's a funny thing. Again, I've paid a premium to go see things. I paid premiums to go see rock concerts and sporting events and other things. But those are, again, a band comes to your town once. A one night only kind of a sporting event is a one of a kind event. You can say, there are 82 games in a hockey season or a basketball season or 162 baseball games a year or whatever. They're all unique. A movie's a movie.
and I'm as rabid a fan as anybody else, maybe more so in a lot of cases, but paying a premium to do that, like, honestly, it made me think to myself, I think Cineplex left a lot, or movie theaters, again, I will keep it to North America, but I think they left a lot of money on the table. They really should have done, like, opening night pricing. Like, doesn't that make you think, like, they really could have said, like, oh, you want to go see it on opening night, $50 a pop? Well,
yeah, that's I don't know if they could get away with that kind of logic, because people would just be up in arms. But here's another thought. So we compared this to our favorite conference, which is WWDC, where you have to enter a lottery to get the chance to buy a ticket.
Yeah.
Right. And last year, I think there's a number of bands who are doing that now. Like, I went to see Robert Plant last year and last summer, and he before the concert was announced had basically a lottery. You sent in you sent in your name, your email address for a chance to buy one of the tickets.
Yep.
And you weren't guaranteed to get one. In fact, I did enter it and I didn't get one. I ended up seeing, I think I bought them on a resale site like a couple nights before the show or the night of the show. But I just waited till the price dropped to a reasonable amount of money and then bought them, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, so it's surprisingly, like, when you contacted me at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I went looking on, because it was my turn to buy, as we mentioned last week, right? Mm-hmm. But I went on to buy them, and Thursday night was completely gone. Well, Thursday night's just our recording night anyway.
Yeah.
Friday was completely gone, and then Saturday was sort of the only. And of course, Saturday then we can always go out to Mississauga and watch it, right? So,
yeah.
But it was only that particular night that were any decent seats. So, I mean, like the center of the you could sit at the edge, you could sit at up front, which is horrible for IMAX, but it's tough. But we were also talking last week about this is a bit of follow up from last week. We were talking about how are they going to squeeze a 3-hour movie into a theater, and I noticed as I was looking through the various theaters to see how the tickets were available and what shows were available, they're staggering them from one theater to another. Like in a place where they have an IMAX, obviously they can only do 2 or 3, but they're starting them at like 6 in the morning or something ridiculous like that. They're starting them like during the day, right?
Yeah.
But they're staggering them, so like when you would think one film, it's not like they're back to back in one theater. It's like it goes in one theater and then they stagger it into another actual room. Yeah. If you know what I'm saying, right? So
yeah, I mean it's funny, like those premium shows, to go see it in IMAX or Ultra AVX or anything like that. Most theaters only have a couple of those.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. There are going to be a lot of screenings, but there's only so much you can do with a movie that's 3 hours and 2 minutes long, plus commercials, plus trailers, plus the time it takes to go in and scrub the floors in between shows. It's going to be interesting. Although again, I don't think they're going to be hurting for money on this one. It sounds like they have done some pretty crazy bank already.
Well, by the same token, though, I mean, like, I don't know that the pricing. I mean, I paid $20 a piece for each of the seats, and I don't know what you paid. Probably the same, right? You're going in IMAX.
Well, actually, I cashed in my scene points. I paid nothing.
Oh yeah, well yeah, I got scene. I have some coupon points. I got to figure out how to cash those in, but I wasn't. Of course, it was like you got to buy them. I mean, there's a timer running, and you can't really dick around with them too much. Yeah. I have like 3 passes that I got to try and figure out how to use, right? But anywho, yeah. Well, it's an interesting movie. It's going to be. I wonder how people are really looking forward to this one. It's surprising, right?
Clearly, yeah. So, like, again, well, it's true though. I mean, when have we ever seen anything like this before? It's the culmination of a 22 movie buildup, and it ended on basically a cliffhanger, right? People want to know. Curiosity is human nature.
Yeah. We'll all be sadly disappointed on the day it comes out.
Yep.
Hopefully not. Anyway, carry on.
Okay, so other news. So we got news this week. It's sort of sad news, but not, I guess, wildly unexpected. So we got news that Emily Bett Rickards, who plays Felicity on Arrow, is leaving the show at the end of the season. There's a little bit of a surprise because they had already announced that Arrow was going to be ending after a 10-episode final season starting this fall. It is a little peculiar that she is not going to be around for that, although maybe she'll come back as a guest star or something in one of the episodes for the last season. Now, spoilers for those out there who don't want to know what's going on in Arrow right now, but her character is pregnant, and so there's a convenient way to sort of have her be like, well, I'm going to go have this baby. I've got to go somewhere safe where the bad guys can't get me. So there's a pretty easy out for her character. But it will be very strange to not have her there. She's been there since season 1. Felicity was a thing. Everybody shipped the two of them together for Oliver and Felicity to get together. But, the plan when the show started was to follow along the storylines from the comic books, where actually what do they call her? Black Canary and Green Arrow end up as a couple. But there was such a great chemistry between the actors, Stephen Amell and Emily Rickards, that everybody was just saying, like, these guys should be together, not them. And so they just went with it, and it's been part of the hit of the show. So yeah, sort of weird and sad to see her moving on. Obviously, she must be moving on because she has another project she wants to work on, and it doesn't make sense to go back for, part of a season or whatever else. But yeah, a little bittersweet. Sort of does start to feel a little bit of finality to the end of what show's been around for 7 years. It'll be eighth season in the fall. So yeah.
Interesting. All right. What's next?
A couple pieces of casting information. So Black Widow, we've known for a while that Black Widow was going to be probably in this next slate of Marvel movies. Marvel has been very cautious in not announcing what they're going to do after Endgame, although we have gotten news that the Spider-Man movie's coming. We know that they're working on things like the Eternals. We know that they're working on Shang-Chi, we talked about, and we know that they're working on a Black Widow movie. They haven't really talked very much about it. So this week we got news from a couple of different sources on a couple of different castings for this show. David Harbour, who is best known probably for being the cantankerous sheriff on Stranger Things, is allegedly joining the cast. So the Hollywood Reporter had a story saying that Harbour has signed on to co-star along with Scarlett Johansson, obviously, is going to be the Black Widow. And Variety is reporting that Rachel Weisz is also in talks. Now, apparently she hasn't been fully cast, but she apparently has, quote, strong interest in being in the film. So, I mean, that's some pretty cool A-list cast members to add to that film. I mean, Weisz is an Oscar winner, and Harbour obviously is he not only is he on Stranger Things, but Hellboy comes out next weekend.
Right. Yeah.
So this is an actor who's very much on the rise. So yeah, some really cool names to add to that. And if you weren't already in for Marvel movies, that's some. We talked last week about Angelina Jolie being a name that they bring in to add to this. Already this steamroller of movies they've got. But that's a couple of cool actors to add to that stuff too.
There's a new Marvel show starting tonight. Actually, I don't know if you saw that on ABC Spark.
What's the new show?
Something and something.
Cloak and Dagger?
Yes, Cloak and Dagger, yeah.
Yeah, that's season 2. Season 2. Yeah, okay. Season 2's first episode's tonight.
All right.
Yeah. And the other news we got actually just today was kind of cool. John Cho has apparently been tapped to star in the live action version of Cowboy Bebop. It's honestly it's a shame that Jaime's not here. I'm sure he must be a Cowboy Bebop fan. I know he's a big anime fan. So yeah, this is a pretty big deal. So Netflix is going to be doing this live action version of it. Obviously there's been a lot of backlash, and we've talked about it here on the pod about whitewashing and some of the incidents. Ghost in the Shell is obviously one of the most famous ones, where they cast Scarlett Johansson in the role that was obviously a Japanese character. So to see an Asian character getting the chance to play an Asian character from the anime, and John Cho's obviously a terrific actor, that just catapults that movie, to the series, into being something that I think has gone from a curiosity to maybe a must-watch. So that's really cool.
Cool, yeah.
A couple of confirmed start dates for genre shows. So last weekend we got the news that Swamp Thing, another one of the series that is going to be on DC's All Access app, like the Titan series and Doom Patrol, Swamp Thing is going to be debuting in May. And we also got news that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is confirmed. So we've got, let's see, I'm just going to double check the dates. I don't know.
It's back.
It's back. So May 31st is the date for Swamp Thing. And the one for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think was the 15th. I'm just going to double check it here. Make sure I don't give out erroneous information. Yes, the 10th of May is the date for Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Coming back for a 6th season. So yeah, if you're into that, apparently there's some shakeups. I must admit, I was a loyal Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. follower for the first 5 seasons, and then they moved it to Friday nights, and I completely lost track of it. I did notice it's on Crave now. You can watch the entire last season on Crave, so maybe I'll try and catch up on that, because I really did dig that show, but it just fell off the radar when it got yoinked off of, I guess it was on Tuesdays before, and they moved it over to Friday nights, and then it just disappeared into the nothingness. So
right.
So a couple last things. So I flagged the first trailer went up for the Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie. Have you had a chance to look at this one yet?
Yeah, I watched that. I actually put it in as my pick or my headline, but then I noticed you already had it there. So
yeah, what's your take on the?
Interesting. I mean, sort of, I guess, the origin story. I kept wondering, where's Batman in this whole thing? And, you see him walking towards Arkham, what do you call it? Arkham Asylum?
Oh, yeah. It's Arkham Hospital. Or something. Yeah, there's some Arkham there, in the trailer, yeah.
Yeah, and sort of, misunderstood character who, is a sidewalk clown who gets beat up. And, I can probably write the story based on what I saw in the trailer.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'll go on the record right now. Hard pass. Sure. Hard pass.
Really? Okay.
Hard pass. I think he's a fine actor, and I'm sure that it's probably going to be a fine film, but I could not care less.
He's no Heath Ledger, and he's no...
Couldn't care less. It honestly has nothing to do with his performance. To me, it seems like there's no there. Like, a villain movie has to be sort of, it's such a delicate balancing act. Again, I watched Venom a couple weeks ago. Anti-hero, you can probably pull off, he can probably, you can find some redeeming qualities. This is like a descent into madness, right? This is about how somebody goes from being, a little bit off to being a criminal. Again, I'm sure it's going to be a fine movie, but I don't think that it's like going to be a genre movie. It's certainly not something that, I would consider a must-see movie. I'm not into it at all. And it just looked sad and depressing and just kind of flat. I am not interested in this movie at all.
Which raises a question for you. What did you think about Glass? Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't seen Glass yet.
Did you intend on seeing it, or?
I probably will. I'll see it in the same way that I saw. What was the previous one? The one with the multiple personalities.
With what's his name?
Yeah,
the Scottish dude.
I did see that one.
The Scottish play. Yeah.
Yes, the Scottish one. Yeah, that one was good, but again, I waited till it was in at the library. It wasn't really like big for me. I'm a casual fan of M. Night Shyamalan. I didn't really, I wasn't really on my like to do. And then I heard people talking about it, like, oh, it's actually he's back. It's really good. Split. Sorry, that's what it's called. Split. Right, and I had heard good things about it. And it was certainly interesting. It was a little grim. It was certainly wasn't as compelling as I found some of his earlier works. And then of course they has the big twist. What a twist! He had this big twist where it's actually tied into the same universe as Unbreakable. And then we got news there was going to be a third piece that was going to tie it all together. Again, casually interested. Like more curious than compelled.
Yeah, I think so too.
If it comes onto Netflix or I put a hold on it for whenever it shows up at the library, I'll certainly give it a watch. I like the actors, Samuel Jackson. I'll watch him in anything. Bruce Willis, honestly, is a hit and miss. It just depends on the movie. James McAvoy is a fantastic actor. So there's enough there to want to see where they went with it. And Unbreakable is a fantastic film. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, for sure.
So curious to see where they went with that. But again, some of these premises, you're just sort of like, well, okay, thanks, I guess. So our last news item, I thought I would bring this one up. So we've got our first wave this week of Fan Expo 2019 guests.
Right. So far I only see 4 of them.
There's actually 5. There's a 5th one. They've got 4 celebrities and a comic book guest so far.
Is that Jim Lee?
Jim Lee, yes. So Jim Lee is the comic book sort of guest of honor so far that they've announced. Yeah. And then 4 celebrities. We've got David Harbour, we talked about, who's Stranger Things and Hellboy. We've got Zachary Levi, Levi, who's going to be Shazam, the movie that comes out tomorrow. Jason Momoa, of course, Aquaman, very popular. And the coup de grace, the real get.
On the fly.
Jeff Goldblum is going to be there too. So pretty cool. Good, good start for them. All dudes. All right. It is what it is.
Yeah. All white dudes. Well, 3 out of 4 are white dudes.
Yeah, 3 out of 4. Well, to be fair, Goldblum's a space alien, so that's diversity.
He's what?
But he's a space alien.
Oh, right.
Yeah, but again, it's a good start. So yeah, curious to see who they add and how much more they add. Obviously, it's become very celebrity centric. So if you're there to see the celebrities, that's a good start. And it'll be interesting to see where they go from there.
I'm always surprised by the celebrities that I don't go there to see the celebrities. We just pick a day and go. And 2 years ago, I bumped into Matt Smith and got an autograph from him. And last year I met Keir Delay and Gary Lockwood. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. I can't honestly say. I don't think I've ever gone and met a celeb. Like I go and meet the comic book creators, though that's my bailiwick. But I don't think I've ever gone and met a celebrity. I did that when I was a kid. I used to go to other shows and I would go and meet some of the people because they were much smaller scale than they are now. I met all the stars of Star Trek when I was 8 years old. But
right.
It's back when you could get Walter Koenig or James Doohan to show up at your con for $100 and a case of beer.
Yeah. I had a chance to meet and greet Carrie Fisher or get an autograph, but I didn't take it. Regretting that one, of course.
I have this lovely framed picture autographed by Carrie Fisher in my library.
I know, I gave it to you.
It's very. Oh, that's right. She's wearing a gold bikini. It's autographed.
Yes,
it's really
metal bikini. She puts it in the
really nice. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's it for our headlines.
Alrighty. Well, that brings us to the main feature of the show, which is why we're here, and that's to talk about the latest episode of Star Trek Discovery, episode 12, season 2, the Through the Valley of Shadows. I didn't know the name of the show until I read your notes here. So it's my chance my turn to recap. So I'll just go through my notes here. So it starts off. The episode starts with Amanda coming to visit Michael and tell her that she's sorry that she got to meet her mom, and Michael says I lost her, and Amanda turns it around and says no, think about it this way, you found her. And then Spock interrupts and says, hey mom, how's it going? And they found another signal, so they need us up on the bridge. And turns out that this particular signal, and I believe they said this was the 3rd of 9th, if I'm not mistaken. 3rd of 9, 3rd of 7, something like that. Anyway,
7
Pike
of 9?
says, 7 of 9, yeah. The Pike says that it's at a Klingon planet named Boreth that they need to go to, and they figure if it's not Michael Burnham's mother, because they kind of messed her up last episode by destroying her time crystal and her suit, and whipping her back without her suit into the what do you call it, in the Upside Down. And so they figure it must be another traveler coming back to do that, right? To do that. So, and they discuss, taking the Discovery there, and they realize, well, if anywhere they take the Discovery that's close to Leland, they risk Control getting a hold of the rest of the data, and so they decide they need to protect the ship by keeping it away. So they decide to send off actually, the Discovery goes to the planet.
So the Discovery goes to the planet, and they send Burnham goes on the mission to go and investigate the Section 31 ships.
Right, to find out what's going on with those. Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the planet is basically known for a monastery devoted to Kailash, and so Ash can contact his contacts in the Klingon Empire and get passage, and then they have a meeting with L'Rell and Volk, or sorry, Ash and Pike. They're discussing, who can go down to the planet, and so actually, no, I think Ash sort of says to Pike at the beginning that I need to know because this is where my son is, which I don't remember him ever telling them about his son, but there you go, because he's supposed to be dead, and his son is supposed to be dead too, right? Because L'Rell's apparently threw them into the chasm.
Yes.
Yeah, but anyway, so turns out that one of the Section 31 ships missed its check-in by like 10 minutes. Like, did that set off an ADT alarm or something like that? I'm not sure. Anyway, so Spock and Burnham decide to go. Burnham decides she's going to go investigate that, and Spock says, "You're not going alone. I'm going with you," sort of thing. And so they go over there to check it out. And anyway, so in the conference that L'Rell and Ash are having, they discuss, who can go down to the planet and talk to the Klingons, or the Klingon monks that are down there. And L'Rell forbids Ash to go down because nobody's supposed to know he's alive, and nobody's supposed to know the son is alive, so she forbids him to go. And so Pike says, "I'll go down." So he'll go down and make the have an audience with the if L'Rell can set it up, right? And I believe she says to him at the time, or was it the dude that they meet when they get down there, that says, no one can take a time crystal. Yes, it was the monk that they meet down there, and the monk's name is
Tavanik.
Tavanik or Tenavik? I misspelled it, I guess. How do you have it spelled?
I had it as Tavanik, but let me...
Tavanik. Okay, we'll go with Tavanik. Anyway, so he meets them at the door, and it's kind of it's a weird sort of conversation they have, because he's talking about how, like, nobody can have the crystals and you never leave the planet, and no one has taken the crystals away without great sacrifice. And so I guess you probably heard that as a writer, thinking, oh, there has to be a great sacrifice for somebody to get this crystal, where I kind of went, okay, well, they've closed the door, we're not going to be able to do this, right? Yep. So that's the difference between you and me, I think, right?
Well, it's good that you're starting to see the patterns, right?
Yeah. So they start talking, and Tavanik and Pike are walking towards where they, I guess the shop where they keep the crystals, and he's talking to Pike, and he kind of says that I had no name when I was sent here to be a monk, and he said, just like my father, and then he mentions that Ash was his father. So this is apparently the grown-up son. Last time we saw him, he was an infant. Yep. And now he's a fully grown guy with this really awesome headgear, which I'm sure somebody's going to wear at Comic-Con or Fan Expo in a couple of months, right? Yeah. And he sort of mentions, too, this is a kind of interesting thing, that because of the time crystals, the things grow at an unusual rate on this particular planet, because the past, the present, and the future are all in the same timeline because of the I guess, the proximity to the time crystals, right? Yeah. So meanwhile, on the shuttle that's going off to investigate this Section 31 ship, Spock is talking to, or in the discussion about going there, Spock and Burnham are having their brother-sister kind of conversation, and so Spock sort of says, well, when you eliminate all the different things that are going on around here, the one common denominator between, the Red Angel and all the events that are happening is you, but Michael Burnham. You seem to be the center of the attention here again. And he sort of says, you must be angry. She says, no, I'm not angry. I'm enraged. Mm-hmm. And she gives him the enraged look, right? So, and he goes, yes, that's an enemy of logic. So they arrive at they just like in again, I love it when they steal things from other movies or other TV shows, but just like in, I believe it might be Star Wars. Is it Star Wars? Where they come out of warp and they're in the middle of a whole bunch of destruction?
Well, yeah, in Star Wars Episode 4, when they come out of hyperdrive and they're supposed to be on Alderaan there, and it's actually a debris field.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, so instead of debris, it's floating, frozen popsicle Starfleet officers and Section 31.
Yeah, I had it down as crucicles.
Crucicles. Okay. Yeah, and then and so of course, I mean, Jonathan could have written this part. There's one person that still has a life sign.
Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun. So they go and they transport him onto the ship, and they put him in the microwave on defrost for a few seconds, and of course it turns out to be somebody that Michael Burnham knows, right? From the Shenzhou, I believe.
Shenzhou.
Shenzhou, from the very first episodes. Yep. And his name is Lieutenant Karam Gant. So
Kamran Gant, I had. Kamran Gant.
Yeah, Kamran Gant. Yeah. Yes. Anyway, so they he tells him how, he was trying to run a subroutine to kick out control, which, me being the stupid audience member watching this believes everything this guy says. Jonathan probably sees right through it. that he was trying to lock out the AI, and the AI kicked everybody out into space and basically killed them all, except for him, of course.
He just happened to be wearing a suit that protected him from dying. It's a coincidence. Clearly, there's nowhere this is going.
Right, exactly. Yeah. There you go. So meanwhile, back on the Klingon planet of what was it called again? Borath. Anyway, we're back in. So now we're in the store where they have the time crystals, and Shvanek says to Pike,
you mean the fires of Mordor when they went down into the basement and the fires of Mordor?
This is the little cave where Yoda sends Luke in to go and face his fears.
I know, but it's that first scene when they come down. They first sort of enter the scene, and it's glowing. It's clearly got like a molten.
The bridge.
It honestly looked. I was waiting for like Gollum to be throwing, the ring in.
The Balroth to sort of no man shall pass.
Yeah, it was a very Lord of the Rings vibe in there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because there's only like 4 digital artists on the world that can do this kind of stuff. Anyway, so so they get into this sort of this store, and of course, like Yoda says to Luke, only you can see for yourself. I can't explain to you what you'll see here, and I don't remember him giving Pike any kind of direction that you're going to see something you're not going to like, right? But of course, let's see. Do we skip ahead?
Well, he warned him. He warned him when he first showed up on the planet that he was going to basically, said,
sacrifice. Yeah.
Nobody can get through this experience without a major sacrifice. Yeah. So be prepared. And then he walks him down and basically says, grab hold of one of these things and we'll see what happens.
Yes, and he sort of says, So this is the part where he does see the part. I did put that part in here. So so he grabs a hold of one of the crystals, and of course he sees himself, on a ship in the future where the warp core is about to blow up, and it blasts one of his crewmen across the engineering department, and he gets blasted with this plasma of whatever, and of course you see Captain Pike all burned, like his face is all burned up, much like Captain Pike in the Menagerie episode that we talked about last week. And and then the next scene, he's in a corridor, and he sees himself drive up in the wheelchair, sort of a modern, take on the electric wheelchair that we talked about, where the other actor who played Christopher Pike is in, not Jeffrey Hunter, because I guess they couldn't get Jeffrey Hunter to replay the role, but they have the guy in makeup in the Menagerie, and of course, so Pike sees himself in the future in the wheelchair, all burnt up and unable to move, and so they look at the face of Pike in the chair, and his face starts to melt, and he starts screaming, and then we realize that he's, we're back in the Crystal Cave. That's what it is, the Crystal Cave from the Arthur legend.
That's right.
Arthur legend. So he's back in the Crystal Cave with Merlin, and he jumps back and starts screaming because he's just seen himself where his future is going. He's going to be in this horrible, disfigured, life for himself, and of course he probably can feel all the pain and discomfort that he would have at that time in the future. Anyway, he says to himself, his mantra is, I'm in service of, I'm a Starfleet captain, I'm in service of Starfleet, so I just have to, I can't turn away from this future. I have to get this crystal. I have to solve this problem, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So
Tvenek says to him, though, like, basically, you can take the crystal now, but if you do that, you seal your fate, right?
Yes.
So basically, you have to choose. If you take this crystal, what you saw will 100% come true.
Right, and he says, and I honor you. And then, I guess it must have been good television or something, but I don't understand this part. Tvenek grabs the crystal from the mountain and hands it to him. Mm-hmm. So wouldn't Tvenek have some sort of sealed fate disaster thing going on?
We'll call that one Klingon mysticism, and maybe he's immune to being able to touch them or something. I don't know.
Right. So in my notes, I literally have written, meanwhile, on the ship, because Burnham and new guy Gant and Spock go to the bridge because of course the oxygen has been restored to this ship, which I don't think we got the name of, and the Section 31 ship, and they decide they're going to bring up the bridge and see what goes on and see what's happening with this, right? So they decide they're going to the ship jumps. I've got here in my notes. Oh yes. As soon as they get on it, the ship jumps into warp and flies off away from and leaves all the crucicles behind, right?
Yep.
And then, of course, there's a scene that they flash forward to back because they have to have a Culber Stamets sort of interlude here. So they go to the requisite interlude, and they're all joking away in the lunch table, and Reno sits down to join the rest of them, and Stamets notices Culber across the cafeteria talking to some other chick or whatever, and getting that sort of high school jealousy sort of look on his face or what's going on. And Reno's like, hey, dude, why don't you go deal with this? Like, I don't get it, right? Anyway, so a few seconds later, we flash, I guess a little while later, Reno comes into the medical bay with an emergency.
Yes, a medical emergency.
And I love this because it's a throwback to a line that DeForest Kelley says in one of the Star Treks, and I can't remember which one it is, but she actually has a hangnail.
Yeah.
So she has a hangnail emergency, right?
Hurts like heck.
Yeah. And she says, I'm looking for an idiot whose name rhymes with poo.
Yeah.
And then as he's examining her, he rips off the hangnail to solve her problem. And he notices that she's wearing a wedding ring. And he says, I didn't know you were married. He goes, yes, my wife, and I were married, blah, blah, blah. And, where's your wife now? She passed away in the Klingon War. And she says to him, you have a second chance, and it may not last forever, so don't screw it up. And then she walks out. So because she's like, I'm not a poet, I'm an engineer. But that's her bit of advice to Culber to basically, you got this guy who's like, devoted to you.
Yep.
Don't let it slip, right?
Yeah, but it doesn't pay off. It's kind of a weird. They have that sort of interlude. They set up that first one, they set up the second one, and it doesn't pay off. Obviously, it's going to pay off in one of the last two episodes. But yeah,
well, maybe there's a cliffhanger coming.
Yeah, maybe.
So they decide to write a program to capture back on the ship with Spock and Burnham and Gant. They decide to write a routine to like a dummy operating system so that it will attract the virus that is the AI, and they'll capture it and they'll lock it up in this little compartment or whatever, put it on a floppy disk or whatever, on a USB thumb drive or something. And so Spock's job is to kind of go away and hold the door open while they create this dummy thing. And it turns out that as Gant is talking to Burnham, she kind of looks over at him suspiciously, because we all have figured it out by now. Of course, Jonathan knew, before, when the guy showed up in the spacesuit, that Gant is not Gant. He's actually Control, pretending to be Gant. Again, somebody that Burnham would recognize and would have an instant affinity for, because like
builds
the rest
trust
of the people watching the
immediately.
show,
Builds the trust immediately.
Yeah, like the rest of the people in the audience watching the show were duped into thinking, oh yeah, because it was actually, this is a funny thing about this show, which I really do enjoy, is that in season 1 you see a character on the bridge for 30 seconds.
Yeah, but they pay it forward.
Yeah, and then that character ends up being either he's like one of he's like the leader of the bad guys in the alternate universe, or in this case here it turns out to be Gant. So he's one of the guys sitting on the bridge in an early episode of like on the, what's the name of the ship again? Shenzhou, yeah. Yeah, so he was one of the people that was in, and actually, didn't Burnham blow up that ship or something like that? Shouldn't he be dead or something?
Well,
she kills Georgiou, right?
No. So what he sort of says, it's him, the Borg version of him, right? But basically says, I survived the Battle of the Binary Stars, which is what they call that sort of the first two episodes of the series.
Yeah. Which is why I'm kind of wondering, because not many people did survive that Battle of the Binary Stars.
So I guess that's the other question is this dude really in Section 31, or did Control just basically cook him up? Or, there are some unsolved mysteries there. Maybe he really was in Section 31 and Control just sort of took over his body, or maybe it just made a copy of this dude. It's a little unclear, but... Yeah,
well, and obviously it would have to be somebody that would fool Michael, right?
Yeah.
Because she's the center of this show. So Spock realizes that, I don't know how Spock realizes that Burnham has already figured it out, because he sort of says to her, of course, typical Goldfinger kind of, I'm the bad guy. This is I'm going to lay out my whole plan for you.
Yeah.
Before I kill you, right?
Yeah. Well, and she goes to reach for her phaser, and he basically says, if you reach for that phaser, I'll be there in 0.8 of a second, and I'll fracture your hand in 6 places. But yeah, because Spock is downstairs in the in another room, and he basically is trying to contain control into one area, and then he does a diagnostic that basically says, have I got all of the elements of control all in this one area? And the computer does a search. The computer with a male voice, by the way, which is really weird, does a search and says, actually, no, it's contained in one other place on the ship. It's contained inside a carbon-based life form on the bridge. And Spock goes, ruh-roh. And so then he tries to figure out how to reach Burnham, but he can't, and it goes from there.
So meanwhile, they're having a fight, Burnham and Gant, and of course he's got the poke in the eye thing going here, where he's going to try and. She actually manages to do a reboot of the system while she's fighting with him, but he's meanwhile trying to poke her in the eye to get her. I guess that's how they take over these people.
Well, he's got a syringe filled with nanites, right? That's what that was.
That's what it is. Okay,
yeah. So he's trying to he's going to jam that in her eyeball, because that's clearly how it got transmitted. I guess they want to transmit it. Yeah. So anyway, Spock runs in and tries to do a nerve pinch, and of course the AI says, you can't give me a nerve pinch because I don't have nerve endings. Yep, and breaks his arm.
Breaks his arm. Yeah. So anyway, she's continually firing phasers at him, and eventually the nanites start to leave his body through a hole that she's carved in his chest with a phaser, and they, kind of like the zombies in Z Nation, or not Z Nation, World War Z. They climb over each other and sort of animate themselves and trying to come across the floor to her. And meanwhile, Spock figures out how to stop them by turning on the magnetic floors and basically immobilizes them.
Yep.
And saves them. Of course, they both realize the goal was to turn Michael into a Borg Michael so that they could take over, right? So,
and all in the service of trying to get the sphere data, which is what it wants to basically achieve ultimate.
Right. So it basically wanted to get a hold of Michael, because she seems to be the one sort of thing in his way and all that sort of thing, right? So. Yep. It turns out that meanwhile, they've solved that problem, and meanwhile back on the Enterprise, Pike has returned with the crystals and is talking to Laurel and Ash about the fact that I kind of met your son when I was down there, and because at one point Ash makes a comment the fact that Laurel makes a comment they never gave him a name, and so
he's
Spike
like,
says,
oh, by the way, his name's Tavanik.
Yeah, his name is Tavanik, and he sort of, it says in sort of almost the same sentence, but in a disjointed way, he says his name is Tavanik and he's your son or whatever. And he was meant to be on Boreth because that's his role to basically, and I was meant to be guided by him. So everything works out well, right? And then, of course, they can't just leave well enough alone on this show. They have to all of a sudden be surrounded by 30 Section 1 ships with only one option. And of course, it's the old, again, this is another throwback to the classic Star Trek. When you're completely surrounded and there's a no-win situation in front of you, what does Kirk do?
Self-destruct.
He blows up the ship, right?
Yeah.
So it starts a self-destruct sequence. And so this is what they decide to do. They're going to destroy the ship. And so Pike says, send a message to Starfleet Command. We're going to abandon the ship and get ready for the whole crew to get off the ship. And that's it. At the end of the show, everybody goes home, and then we have to tune in next week to find out what happens.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Yep, that was a good recap. So some good twists and turns in there. You're right. There was a couple of sort of giveaways. Even when Tavanik shows up the first time, he shows up. They mentioned early. I think it was in season 1. They mentioned the fact that Volk being albino is extremely rare.
Right. Yeah.
Tavanik shows up at the first part. I immediately was like, oh, clearly this must be their son, because.
Oh, did you really think that right at the very beginning?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, yeah. I didn't clue in that he was actually albino, but now that you mentioned it,
when he showed up and he was an albino, because they do again, it's a camera trick, right? So they show him up there and he's talking, and I wasn't thinking about it there, but then they show the other two Klingons come out with Batleth and they stand next to Pike like, hey, we're guarding you, we'll kick you out if we need to. And they are clearly the sort of modern Discovery style Klingons, that sort of blue-gray color like Laurel is. And then they show the two of them holding the Batleth guarding Pike, and then they cut and they show W. Tavanik again, and you're like, oh, he's albino. That immediately clicked in. I'm like, why is he so pasty? And I was like, oh, okay, all right, yeah. I didn't immediately think like, I thought maybe there was going to be some sort of thing where, you know, because he said like past, present, and future or whatever. I thought maybe he existed in 3 states, or there was going to be some sort of like, you know, Ghost of Christmas Past, Present, and Future, or some sort of It's a Wonderful Life version for Pike or something like that. Or I didn't know where they were going to go with that, but it kind of made me think like, oh, maybe he exists in like one part of the monastery as a baby, one as a boy, and one as a man or something.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, it did sort of tweak immediately. I'm like, oh, he's an albino. There's no way there's 2 albinos, like, because they say it's like extraordinarily rare for a Klingon to be an albino, right? So that did sort of catch my eye. And yeah, again, the convenience of like, oh, I was the only survivor. It's when he shows up and he's wearing a spacesuit. Everybody else they show the dead crucicles, and none of them are wearing spacesuits. And then he says, yeah, I was on the ship, right, and I was working on this stuff. And you're thinking to yourself, like, why would you be wearing a space? Like, it didn't add up, right? So that sort of got the hackles up. You're like, all right, maybe this is, you know, a load. Again, I assumed it was Control in some way. I didn't figure it would be as clear as he had been assimilated, but yeah, it was again still good twists and turns. Again, 2-gun Burnham with her double phaser shots, blowing holes through him, and you know, there was some interesting stuff in there. Again, that stuff with Pike was really intense. Like, it was really well acted scene. Anson Mount did a wonderful job of acting with his face in that scene. I mean, you know, that was really stirring stuff. Really, really good.
Yeah, yeah. So what about this antonym game? Auto antonym game.
Yeah, that was funny. I honestly made me think to myself, as soon as they started playing it, I was like, oh, that's a good game. I should totally find some of my journalism nerd friends and play that. Yeah, it's fun. Again, any scene where they have Linus is just going to be a hoot. He's obviously the cameo king at this point. Every time they bring in Linus, eating his, what is it?
Yeah, he's the guy who escaped from the Orville, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he's the famously who, sneezed on somebody in the turbo lift earlier this season. But yeah, he's hilarious. Yeah. It is nice. I was thinking that as they showed that scene. Obviously, it was built around the whole Jet Reno noticing the friction between Stamets and Culber. But the vibe that they've added in the sort of later half of this season, where you're starting to see more sort of bonds between the different people and the extended crew. We're getting to meet more about the other members of the bridge crew, and you're getting to know them a little bit better. And there's a humor to it, and just sort of it's just, I don't want to say humanizing because they're not all human, but it's personalizing them. It's giving them all a little bit more investment for the viewer, right? You're starting to care about these characters more, and they're not just set dressing for what's happening with Burnham and Saru and Ash, right?
Right.
But it's good. It's a funny scene, and again, it's funny how they're using Jet Reno this season. She sort of pops in and has these sort of she goes in and she crushes scenes. She's really good. She goes in and crushes a couple scenes and then just sort of walks out, and it's great. Yeah, she's been really sort of fun. Sort of have her. They haven't overused her. I think that would be the temptation. You'd have somebody like Tig Notaro. You'd be like, well, let's get her in there as much as possible. But they've had her pop in like 3 or 4 episodes. She sort of pops in, kids out of the park, and then is gone for a few more episodes. It's great.
Yep.
Again, the temptation would be like, oh, let's get her in every scene, or let's make her she's standing in the corner and says something pithy. Like, no, it's way more impactful when she just sort of pops in and does her thing and then bails.
Yeah, from an HR perspective, it's kind of odd though, because they discover her, they rescue her from that other ship that was abandoned, and they bring her back on Discovery. You would think that they would throw on a shuttle and send her back to the Federation Starfleet to be reassigned, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I guess. Although you never know how that played out. Maybe there was a job opening or whatever. But
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, there's a posting here for you.
It's a good thing you're here. Actually, HR. Can you go down to the HR department? Is there an HR department on the actual Discovery?
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, overall, good episode. It was
a good episode. I get, so it's funny because Jaime was talking about the fact that he has a hard time taking notes while watching the show. Well, because I think the difference between me, you obviously can write and watch something at the same time. And for me, I actually take notes as the things are happening, and I'll have to go back and watch the actual episode. Because I'm not looking at the screen the entire time, right? So if there's any sort of off, in the corner. You got to notice this one thing. They're very good about saying, "Hey, look at that piece of wood in the corner."
Yeah,
it reminds me of blah blah blah, and then you kind of, I can hit rewind on the PVR and just watch it again. So
I've been lucky enough over the years. I had taught myself how to write without looking as a journalist. At first I learned how to do it with a pen and paper, and then I learned how to do it with a keyboard, and then I learned how to do it with a phone. So I just keep my iPhone out, and I learned how to thumb type without looking at it, and so I just do that and take my notes. And often they need a little spell correct as I go, but that's what the commercial breaks are for.
Arguing with the spell checkers is a big problem. Like I noticed that it likes to change the names of things that are Star Trek-y. It wants to put them into Americanese or whatever, right? So
I will say my only sort of on the episode was again, it's hard to gauge because the episode lengths are inconsistent. It was about it was almost 9:00, and that sort of culminating scene of we're going to blow up the ship, and then they cut to a commercial, and then they came back and they showed the credits.
Like 2 minutes left to go.
I didn't really know if they were going to pay that off now or if it was going to pay off next time. It maybe just because of the way that's cut. If you watched it on CBS All Access or you watched it on Netflix, and you cut straight from like Pike saying, prepare to abandon ship, we're going to blow it up, and then you cut immediately to the credits, and you were like, oh, that's the end of the episode and that's conclusion. I just feel a little bit sort of caught off guard by this sort of ending of that because I didn't know if it was going to pay forward. There was something else was going to happen. I also found it really interesting. Did you notice that Tilly wasn't in this episode at all? Like, not at all.
No, she was on the in the game.
Was she in the game? I didn't.
Yeah, she was there. Yeah, she was just laughing because. So, what is the antonym game? The only one I heard was I didn't get the words they were saying. I was busy taking notes.
So, like, what? I've never heard of that game either. I didn't know that was
okay. No, I just wondered what an antonym is or whatever.
Well, an auto-antonym is it is a word with multiple meanings that mean the opposite of one another.
Right.
So, what was the one they used in the episode?
I can't remember. Yeah,
Oversight, I think, was the one, right?
Oversight. Yeah.
Again, I've never heard of that being a thing, but it's certainly interesting. And let me see. There's a list online. So, here we go. So, appropriate can mean to give money or to delegate to, as well as to take something away. Yeah. So, to give or to take can be appropriate or appropriate, right? Like so. Right. There's a whole bunch. It is actually a really good list online here. There's a good 30 or 40 of them in here. Oversight, peruse, refrain, scan, story, weather. Yeah, that's neat. It's a neat. I'm the kind of word nerd who was like, as soon as I heard that game, I was like, I totally want to play that game. But probably best that I don't. Yet another way to make enemies.
Sure, right. So you got here in the notes, Doom Patrol, Happy, and Detective 100. What's that about? Yeah.
So last week in our watch list, I had flagged multiple things that I wanted to tag up with in the week we had in between, and so I managed 3 out of 4. So tonight is the first episode of Twilight Zone, the new Twilight Zone Jordan Peele reboot in Canada is on tonight. So I haven't obviously watched that because it's on as we speak. But I did manage to watch the first 2 episodes of Doom Patrol that aired on the Space Channel here on Tuesday. And I watched the first episode of Happy, obviously, which was on right as we were recording last week. Episode 2 is recording away as we speak. And I did purchase and read Detective Comics 1000, so I thought I would just sort of give my thoughts. So, did you watch Happy?
I did watch Happy, yeah.
And what was your impression of Happy episode 1, season 2?
It made me happy. Lots of blood, like you said.
I mean the fight scene was stupendous. That where he's trying desperately not to kill people and he keeps killing everybody. You said you wouldn't kill anybody, but you just killed everybody.
Yeah.
That was really funny.
It's funny though. Like, I don't enjoy scenes like the parent-teacher interview where he's a complete idiot and he basically, ruins the kid's chance of ever having a decent life at school. Yeah. It's sort of the Lucille Ball, she always goes into the factory or she always has some scheme that ends up going horribly totally wrong. And I watch those shows, and they make me very anxious because all the while you're thinking, don't do that. Stop doing that. It's kind of like, I don't watch horror movies, but, there's always the scene in the horror movie where the violin music comes up and the girl says, I'm just going to go out and use the outhouse, in the middle of the night. And you're like, don't do that,
Yeah, Sachs being at a parent-teacher interview is probably not a good recipe for success, and clearly it goes way off the rails. Although they do make it pretty clear in there that his daughter is a bit of a hellion. She's clearly having a tough time after her kidnapping last season, and that's left her pretty messed up. So she's clearly got some figuring out to do. But I thought it was a great first episode. Again, just it's such a great mix of sort of hard-boiled versus slapstick versus some pretty pithy writing in there too. And the villains, of course, last season was focused around Christmas time, and this one, of course, couldn't resist. Easter. So there's a whole Easter theme. That opening scene with the nuns was one of the funniest things I've ever seen on television.
Really?
Oh my God. Are you kidding me? The nuns trying to beat the hell out of each other to try and not be the ones who blow up? That was really funny.
Yeah.
But
actually, it was the other way around. They were told that one of them would blow up.
Well, the one nun says she was told, like the one who survives says, we were told that if we pressed the button that we'd be the ones who died. But I think she was lying to the cops because she just killed all of her sisters.
So. Oh, you think?
Oh, yeah.
Why would she lie? She's a nun.
Because she just killed all her sisters, and she doesn't want to be, basically hauled on for basically making the choice to kill everybody to save herself.
Oh, okay. All right. No, I didn't think, I don't know. Again, this is me being naive. I probably thought she was thinking she could get it because she thought she was blowing herself up when she found the balloon and pushed the button.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah, I think she was attempting to kill herself, and the rest of them were trying to like, no, none of us should die kind of thing. I don't know. It's a nuns. What do I know?
Yeah, really. Who knows? I also watched the first 2 episodes of Doom Patrol.
No, I PVR'd them, but I haven't watched it yet. But
yeah,
go ahead.
I'll do the non-spoiler review. I really enjoyed it. I think it is one of the best adaptations of comics that I've seen in quite a while. Doom Patrol has always been, since its inception, a very weird comic book. Some incarnations are weirder than others. Obviously, this one's drawing a lot of inspiration from the 1990s Grant Morrison weirdness run. But it's got this amazing cast. They've casted the heck out of it. There's a lot of talent there. It's very self-aware, and the vibe is really great. And I'm now champing at the bit to watch more. We got the first 2 episodes here, and now it's going to be airing weekly on Space on Tuesday nights. Of course, in the United States, they're already up to episode 8 was on this week. So it's frustrating knowing that there's so much more out there, that we're that sort of far behind the curve. I think the expectation was, I think somebody said it was going to be 15 episodes for the first season. But I really, really dug the first 2 episodes. So did we miss an episode on Tuesday? There was back-to-back episodes. There was 2 episodes.
No, I know it started last week though, right?
No, this week was 2 episodes to start.
Oh, okay, yeah, I haven't watched it yet. I've been busy trying to restore my Mac.
No, it's, again, I will tell you and anyone who's listening, it's worth making the effort, especially the first 2 sort of back-to-back. You kind of have to watch both to sort of get a sense of, the first one sort of gives you the characters, and then it sort of builds on like how it all comes together a little bit from there.
So Brendan Fraser is Robot Man or whatever?
He is.
He's like completely covered up?
I don't know that he's actually doing the physical acting in the Robot Man suit, or if he's just doing the voice. It's a good question, actually.
Because I kind of wondered, what could he just do the voice, right? Because he's an older dude. He's like my age, isn't he?
I think he's somewhere between you and me. I would say he's probably in his early 50s, maybe. But yeah, I mean, he looks. There are scenes with him as a person, and he looks. He's looking a little older and a little heavier and everything else. But
because he was in that the movie about John Paul Getty's.
The kidnapping. Yeah.
He
never saw that one.
Texas cop who was doing the negotiation. He was really good in that, actually.
Yeah. He's having a bit of a renaissance. It's good. It's good for him. But yeah, again, wholehearted endorsement. That makes me think I should go back, because they actually debuted the Doom Patrol in that Titans series. They were in one of the episodes, which I guess comes later. The Titans crossover would be later in the continuity of time from these episodes. But
wait, so the Titans are in Doom Patrol, or the other way around?
No, so Titans Titans came first. It was the first DC All Access exclusive TV series that you can now watch in Canada on Netflix. And in one of those episodes, the Doom Patrol appear.
Oh, I see. Okay.
They are special guest stars. That was sort of a backdoor pilot to, hey, maybe we're going to do this. And then, of course, they did that, and the Doom Patrol now has its own series. They're not really, like, they don't mention the Titans or anything in this, in Doom Patrol. So you don't really need to have that. But Titans has been on my radar anyways, and now I'm kind of curious as to how they tied those things together. So I'm going to go back and watch that soon. But yeah, it was really good. The other thing that I did, I bought the Detective 1000. I bought
which cover did you get?
I bought the Jim Lee cover. I was tempted by some of the other ones. There's lots and lots of good choices at my local comic book shop. But yeah, that one it just is a classic Jim Lee cover. It's a wraparound. It's really pretty. He did one of the stories inside. Kevin Smith wrote and Jim Lee drew a really cool little. It's a series of short stories. It's 94 or 96 pages, so it's pretty thick for a comic book. So it'd be about 4 times as big as an average comic book. And basically, it's carved up into a series of 8-10-page stories by different creators from different famous combinations of different people. So as I say, Kevin Smith did some. Brian Michael Bendis is one of their most famous comic book writers, wrote a piece for it. We had Paul Dini, of course, who wrote Batman the Animated Series, wrote a piece for it. Tom King, son of Stephen, who's a very popular comic book writer and has been writing Batman for the last few years, did a piece. And a bunch of famous artists as well, some pinups and everything else. It's you don't have to know what's going on in current DC continuity. You don't have to know. All you have to know is who Batman is. And you can pick up that book and really enjoy it. Really cool to see all that talent in one place. Some really neat little sort of, nods to not just Batman, but Batman as a detective. Sometimes that slips through the cracks, especially in the film versions. You lose that a little bit. But definitely really a nice homage. Full props to the folks over at DC. If you're going to have a milestone like this, go big. You could do one big sort of story to sort of try and wrap that up. But this series of short stories was really, really cool. And it's nice to see so many different interpretations of the character through that. So yeah, definitely worth a read.
Cool. All right. Well, let's get to the watch list. What do you got on the watch list?
Yeah. So just a couple things. So we talked about last week. I'm still keen to see Shazam. It looks like a fun corner of the DC extended movie universe. We've kind of obviously we've been a little critical here, and I think a lot of people have obviously of the sort of Zack Snyder very dark take on the DC Comics universe and film. Shazam looks like it's just a lot of fun. I'm sure there's
in the IMAX too, eh? Did you see that?
It is. So we'll have to talk about that in our post game show about whether or not we're going to make an effort to go see that this weekend. But it just looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. It was filmed here in Toronto, so I'm sure there'll be lots of little sites for those of us who are in the know. It just looks like it's going to be, again, I come and go on the character. I've enjoyed some Shazam and Captain Marvel stories. We talked about this. Captain Marvel is actually the character's name in the comic books. I've enjoyed a lot of those over the years. There's been some really good takes, and there's something really cool about that whole through the eyes of a child thing. The idea is that basically he's a tween boy who gets the powers of a god. It's big. It's Tom Hanks's big, but adding in superheroics. He's there. He's got his buddy. The two of them are like, oh my god, we could totally do this stuff. And all the stupid stuff you would do if you were suddenly a child who could become an adult, and not just an adult, but a beefcake adult who can fly and knock over buildings with a single punch and everything else. So I think it's going to be fun. I'm very curious to see this one. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I had on here was Big Mouth. So it had been on my radar for a while. There's 2 seasons already up on Netflix. It had been on my radar to watch for a while. I'd heard that it was sort of a pretty over-the-top cartoon. So I sat down and watched the first couple episodes this week, and it's everything that it was advertised. It's really gross. It's about a group of sort of preteen kids who are, suddenly experiencing puberty and all that stuff, but it's just sort of no holds barred. It's graphic and it's hilarious. The talent on the show is amazing. There's so many good voice actors, John Mulaney, Nick Kroll. It really caught my eye. So I'm going to sort of plow through these episodes now. They're only a half hour, sitcom-y kind of things. But yeah, way over the top, really, really funny, very, very not safe for work, very, very vulgar, very, very adult humor, but through the eyes of children. And yeah, it's great. That's great. I highly recommend it. I'm going to keep plowing through the rest of that.
Cool. All right. So for me, I've got First Man. I've just finished reading the novel. I've got like maybe a couple of pages to go in it, but it's interesting because it goes to the same places that the movie went to, but without the sort of brooding Ryan Gosling in it. But it's an interesting read about the whole life of Neil Armstrong in particular, because what's interesting about it is that they kind of land. It's like 20 or 30 chapters long, and I think around chapter 20 is when they're actually walking on the moon, and then the rest of it is like, oh my god, what they had like. So it took 4 days to go to the moon. They were on the moon for like 1 day. No, I don't even know if it was a full day.
I think it was 20 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. They had, and there were 3 opportunities where they could decide to stay or go, and so they went through all 3 of those, and then they walked on the moon for just under 3 hours. They got back in the thing. They had a sleep, and then they came back. It took 4 days to get back, but then they went on like at one point they were in quarantine for 3 weeks. The people came to visit them. Then they went on a 25 city tour in 44 days.
Wow.
And then like the going to the moon was the easy part.
Yeah. Yeah. And every city gave them a ticker tape parade. Yeah.
Exactly. And he said like at one point they were throwing IBM, they were throwing out computer cards, like bricks of computer cards. And the idea was that, the wind would catch them and they would fall apart. But often the bricks of computer cards didn't come apart, and they were like bombing the car. So there were like dents in the car from these bricks of cards landing on them, right? But yeah, nice. It was like littered with stuff, and the people asking him for stuff, and then he was told he met Charles Lindbergh at one point. He said, "Don't sign anything," and next thing he knew, he didn't realize he signed things whenever people asked for like 30 years, and then his autograph would turn up on eBay like a week later, right? Other interesting things and they talk about at one point, and the author talks about the fact that there's not a single picture of Neil Armstrong on the moon. They're all of Buzz Aldrin, because Buzz Aldrin never took a picture of Neil Armstrong on the moon.
That's funny.
Yeah, and then there's all sort of
to clarify, you mean photograph, right? Obviously, we have video footage.
All you see is his shadowy arm on the moon. There's no footage of Neil Armstrong on the moon.
Well, on the documentary,
there's some video of him walking around.
There's the video that was actually mounted on the leg of the lander.
That's true. Yeah, that's new footage. I mean, at the time the book was written, that I don't think that footage had been discovered, because the movie we saw, Apollo 11, a lot of that's new footage.
Yeah, that's newfound. Yeah.
Like him dragging the video camera out with a big giant long cable on it. Yeah, but there's no actual photographs of all the photographs. The photograph that I have here in my room is signed by Buzz Aldrin, is taken by Neil Armstrong, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So and they talk about putting the flag up. They had trouble getting into the soil because they hadn't planned. The flag was a last minute thought, right? They hadn't really rehearsed it. And if you look at the picture I've got here, they weren't able to pull the top piece out far enough, and so the flag's all wrinkly. And Neil Armstrong thought that, because he was a Boy Scout, he thought that the flag should not be like pretending it's flying. It should be flat, like it should hang down like a flag would, right? In gravity. But he didn't. He lost that argument. Mm-hmm. But it's an interesting read, like from the point of view of like all the stuff that he had to go through, being, and all the while thinking, like he sort of says, I was just one of 400 people that made this happen. And he wasn't designated to be the first man on the moon. He just happened to be the commander of the flight, and it just worked out that he was the first one out the door, sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't that he was designated or chosen or, blessed to be the first guy on the moon. It just happened to be in the right place at the right time, sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
And so he always felt that, he didn't like the fact that he was singled out as the most important person. But as an example, they were saying, I paid $500 or something for this picture signed by Buzz Aldrin, and they were saying that Neil Armstrong's signature goes for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Really?
Crazy expensive. I don't know if that's the exact number, but yeah, his autograph is one of the most sought after autographs.
Because he just stopped signing at a certain point, or?
Well, Lindbergh told him to stop doing it, right? So and at one point he would write a personal letter to Eagle Scouts when they became an Eagle Scout, and then of course once the Eagle Scouts found out that he was doing that, then they would constantly send him requests to do it, and he kind of just had to stop doing stuff after a while because it just got too much for people. People just wanted a piece of him, right? Sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
So, it's kind of it's melancholy, but and when he died, the government offered to have a state funeral for him, but his wife sort of said no, we'll just have a regular funeral, and they had a ceremony for him in Washington, but he didn't want a state funeral because that's reserved for presidents, right?
Yeah.
Anywho, so that's if you're interested in the story at all, I do recommend plowing through the book. It's a bit dry. It's not really. I don't think it's really written very well, but yeah, it's very factual is what I guess is the way to say it, right? So, and of course, they play up a lot of drama in the movie that didn't happen. There's no evidence that, or nobody knows, and there's no evidence that he actually took anything of his daughters. And in the movie, they have a scene where he throws her bracelet into this big crater. He did go visit the crater, but whether he threw something in there or not, nobody knows, and he's never said anything about it, right? So,
interesting.
The other thing I want to mention is I did finish watching Umbrella Academy. I've had my computer had to be restored in the last couple of days, so I had time to kill. But in the meantime, I was watching Umbrella Academy on the tube, so I managed to get through all that. It was a really interesting take on the whole superpower kind of genre, right? So, so I got through that one. That, again, also filmed in Toronto and parts of Hamilton, apparently.
Yeah.
But yeah, every time there's a Toronto scene on there, our eyes just kind of go, hey, I recognize that bike stand, and hey, I recognize that place, and oh, look, there's the Rogers Center,
Yeah, the pawn shop. At one point, they walk by the pawn shop. I'm like, I've been in there.
Which pawn shop is that?
It's one of the ones over on Church.
Oh, Church. Oh, yeah.
At one point, they're standing outside. They're having a conversation outside of a pawn shop. I'm like, I totally know exactly where they're standing. Yeah, but no, it was good. I enjoyed that too. Obviously, it also ends on a bit of a cliffhanger too. So they did confirm. I don't know if I mentioned it, but I did see news. I think it was unofficial this week. There was a few different sites that were reporting that it's coming back for season 2 for sure. And there was a weird sort of kerfuffle. Again, I haven't brought it up because I haven't been able to confirm it, but I'll throw the idle speculation out here. But there was a weird tweet from the young man who plays number 5.
Yeah.
Apparently tweeted out this week. He was like, hey, I had the time of my life. Thanks for everything. And everyone was like, does that mean the show got canceled? Does that mean he's not coming back? And so that I haven't seen how that has resolved, whether or not he is coming back or whether or not that was related to something else. I will pursue that one. We'll see if I can get a follow up on that one. But there's a lot of people who were like, "Oh, cool show, lots of good moments. When's the next one?" And they were like, "Maybe." So still no official word from Netflix whether they're doing more.
I thought it had been renewed. I heard something the other day.
Yeah, again, I saw it a couple of days ago. But it was on a couple of sites that I'm not.
Right.
I wouldn't necessarily want to reference.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I heard something the other day that was...
Variety. Yeah, no, yep, you're right. So, yeah, I saw this, I guess, late last week. There was a few, what I will call blogs. They're not necessarily what I would call reputable news sources. Obviously, they were accurate, so maybe I should pay them more credence. But, Variety.com is reporting it now, and I would take them as a reputable news source. So, yes,
it's
definitely
legit,
season 2. So, yeah, that's good. That's
cool.
Good. Yeah.
All right, and my last thing on the watch list here is I was reading the book, and they talked about a 60 minutes interview with Neil Armstrong and Ed Bradley Jr., right? And I thought, I'll go on YouTube and I'll just see if that video is floating around. And of course, there's a link to the CBS website that has the article on it, but it says watch it on CBS All Access. And I went, what are you talking about? Anyway, I followed the link, and I ended up on one of those ads that fills up the page that you have to click the X to get rid of. CBS All Access. Hello, Canada.
Yeah, I noticed they have an app on Apple TV now, too.
Yeah, sign up now and stream thousands of episodes commercial-free, plus live, blah, 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 blah. Join now and get 1 month free. Yeah, why would we pay for something that we already get as part of our packages, right?
Well, that's, I guess, the real question is I guess you can get it commercial-free. Not that you can't get that from Crave here as far as Star Trek. We already know that City TV, which is a standard cable channel here in Canada, is carrying Twilight Zone. So I'm not sure where the appeal is. I had the same occurrence when I saw that on, it was just the other day, I was looking on Apple TV for something, and I noticed that they had an app built in, and I thought, why the heck would you need an app for that? Why would you even want that here? Why would you pay for that? Well,
and then there's a whole like how we don't get TV shows in Canada that are available in the States, right?
Yeah.
Like how do they cross that border, right?
Yeah, it's a good question. Maybe you should drop down some money and find out for us.
No, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah,
not that interested.
No, I don't get it either. Maybe
this is the future. Maybe we're all going to end up like I said. Okay, we've been complaining about paying $80 to $100 for cable TV all these years, and so people have been cutting the cable left, right, and center and going to these new online services, right? But now, if we end up having to pay these guys $15, and we have to pay Disney $15, we have to pay Marvel $15 and DC $15, aren't we paying $85 a month anyway,
or way more at the way things are going? I wonder where the first ones we'll start to see. So right now we're seeing it all fracture, right? So they're creating content and they're fracturing. So Disney was working with Netflix. They had a partnership to distribute their movies and also to make original shows. We talked about that with Daredevil and Jessica Jones and those. So the fracture starts when they're like, you know what? Why are we doing this partnership with you, Netflix? We should create our own thing. That way we have our own revenue source and we can do our own thing. Fine. So they fracture away from that. And so we see fracture. Everybody's doing their own thing. I wonder where we're going to start to see a bundling happening. I think Jaime mentioned in our last episode that you now get Hulu if you have a Spotify subscription. In the States. Obviously here we don't have Hulu yet. I wonder when we're going to see more partnerships like that pop up where, you pay $20 a month, but you get these 3 services, or, if you're, bundling by genre, like if, you pay this much, you get, DC's app, but you also get, a couple other sci-fi or horror or fantasy or whatever related things, which essentially down the road, if these things are all fractured, aren't they just, cable channels? Like that's, where's the tipping point?
Yeah, don't know.
Yeah, I don't get it. Hopefully people will stop doing that because I can't afford it all. And there's so much good content. Yeah. Well, and honestly, there's just not enough time in the week. The number of things that have fallen through cracks. I have a list I keep on my phone that's called the TV to-do list, and it's all the stuff that I would like to watch. So if I find myself sitting there thinking, there's nothing on TV, which, I mean, that's not true ever anymore. I can refer to my list and be like, oh yeah, I wanted to watch that. Oh yeah, I wanted to watch that, across these different platforms. But yeah, there's no shortage. We were just talking earlier about Cloak and Dagger. Cloak and Dagger is a comic book I read for years. I've heard good things about the show that they did on Freeform last year. Yeah. It's made it all the way to the start of season 2 now, and I have not watched a single episode. I have it on my PVR. It's been on there for 8 months. There's too many choices. There's not enough time. Even my our number one fan there, my 15-year-old son, says the same thing. I want to play this awesome video game that's got highly rated, and I want to listen to this music, and I also want to watch this show, and there's these movies that are piled up, and there's not enough time in the day. If I took a year off, I don't think I could finish all the things that I want to watch.
If we had some time crystals.
Well, but then you'd find out that you have to, you only have a limited time to watch it before you're a vegetable in a chair, right?
That's true. Yeah. Well, then you can watch all the TV you want.
I guess, although changing the channel is a real pain in the butt after that.
I suppose.
Blink once for change channel.
Yeah. Anyway, I guess that's it for another week. So, Jonathan, if people want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram as @JPKNews.
All right. And I am Tim Mitra, TIMMITRA on the Twitter machine is the best way to get a hold of me. So until next week, we'll see you in the future. Bye.
Bye.
If you want to find out more about the podcast or see the episode show notes, visit the Spockcast website at spockcast.com. You can get in touch with us on the website or follow us on Twitter at Spockcast. If you have feedback or questions, send us a tweet with the hashtag AskSpockcast. If you like the show, please consider recommending us to a friend, writing a review on iTunes, or pledging any amount at patreon.com/Spockcast. You can find details on how to help us out on our website at spockcast.com/sponsor us. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the future.
We should go watch Twilight Zone now.
Yeah, or happy. I must admit, I'm more curious to watch more happy because I enjoyed that so much.
Yeah. Don't know.
The scene where the two guys are they're fighting and the blood is all over the floor and they can't get their grip on the floor. Oh my god, that was just so disgusting, but so good. Yeah.
So Fan Expo's been flogging tickets for a while and recommending me go get signatures and stuff already.
Yeah, the advanced tickets already.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. I imagine just like every year, we will be there at least one day. Again, this was the first year where I felt like I definitely could have gone back for at least one more day.
Really?
I feel like often, I feel like I can do more. Like I can manage to sort of see everything in a day. This time, again, there was a few artists that I really wanted to meet, got some autographs, and I wanted to spend time with my sons and hang out with you and we sort of look at stuff. Sure. We were there for hours. We were there for like 6 hours this year, and I didn't even make it to the North Building. We walked through it.
Really?
Like it was there's just too much to see, too much to do. There's just a lot going on. And again, obviously both the boys went with me and they want to do different things and they're looking at stuff. Although it's nice as they get into their teens now where I can be like, here's your phone, text me if you need me. Otherwise I'm going to be over there with the comic book guys and you can hang out with the video game guys and
Well, last year I went and saw the Discovery Crew, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, again, stuff like that where, like, again, we often go on the Friday. It starts on Thursday and runs till Sunday. Often we go on the Friday because it's a little less crazy and it's a little less expensive. Some of the guests aren't there, but if you're not really there to see the celebrities, it's not that big a deal.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, you do miss out on. They do a lot of the prestige, panels and guest speaking appearances and stuff like that on the Saturdays and Sundays too. So, maybe we'll have to sort of see what the final total is as far as who they're bringing in and what they're having and stuff. Maybe it's a year to finally step up and get that weekend pass again or something else. I don't know. Does it qualify now? Can we go as Spockcast? Should we apply for the media pass?
I was just thinking the same thing. Like
live on the scene. Can we do a live?
Well, they have the internet. What section they have here? Internet celebrities. Do we fall into that category?
I'm not sure we could go as guests. I was thinking maybe we could go as media members. We'll apply as Spockcasters, and what we'll do is we'll do a live from. We'll get Jaime on the
Skype,
Skype, and we'll
Zoom.
have a conversation and Zoom, and we'll
with a cardboard cutout of him. Yeah,
that's right. We'll take him around.
Can we do like a panel submission? Honestly,
that might be one of the best things we could possibly do is to get the full life-size standee of the Dev with the hair, and we'll take him around everywhere and we'll pose with him. We'll meet some celebrities and some costume cosplayers. We'll get pictures taken with Jaime. It'll be great.
So it says, how do I apply to be part of a Fan Expo Canada panel? There's a whole page on here.
Yeah. Actually, I did.
Hmm?
I actually moderated a couple panels there in the past.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah. I did. The last one I did was with a Q&A with Paul Dini, which was really cool. I got a chance to meet Paul. I'd interviewed him before, but got to spend some time with him, and he's great. He not only did he write the Batman the Animated Series, which I'm a huge fan of. He's also a comic book writer as well. But he also, he's a really super nice guy. You know, like it was really cool to sort of sit up there on the podium with him and just asked him some questions, and it helped sort of facilitate that for an hour. And yeah, it was kind of a kick.
Cool. All right.
But back when I was somebody who knew something about comic books and could sit up on a stage.
Yep. All right. Well, I gotta go.
All right, I'll be in touch.
Okay, bye.
All right, see ya.
Nice buns, soft, fluffy, and ultra-low net carbs. Discover Hero Bread, the delicious ultra-low net carb bread with incredible taste and texture. Hero Bread has 0 grams of sugar and is under 100 calories per serving. Plus, high in fiber with 5 to 10 grams of protein per serving. Available on Amazon.com, Walmart.com, and at hero.co. That's HERO.co. Delicious, ultra-low net carb Hero Bread, buns and tortillas. Soft and fluffy, high in fiber, and with 0 grams of sugar. Up to 10 grams of protein, coming in at under 100 calories. Order today at hero.co and use the code AH10 to get 10% off your first purchase. That's AH10 at hero.co. HERO.co. Order from hero.co now and get 10% off your first purchase with promo code AH10. That's 10% off with code AH10. HERO.co.
At Sleep Outfitters Outlet, great sleep is a big deal. Save 40 to 60% every day on every Sealy, Stearns & Foster, and Tempur-Pedic. Queens as low as $249. Customer exchanges, closeouts, and floor samples. Inventory changes daily, so come in for your dream deal today. With no credit needed financing, expert advice, and up to 60% off retail, it's never been easier to get the sleep and savings you deserve. Go to sleepoutfittersoutlet.com for financing details and to find a store near you.